Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. It's 6:03 here in São Paulo. This is the last webinar for the hashtag CPD month. And I'm here today with my dearest friend, Renata Freitas. She's going to talk about using Bloom's taxonomy to enhance critical thinking. Um, Renata Freitas has been a teacher at Cultura Inglesa São Paulo for 10 years. She's involved with in-school partnerships as well as CPD initiatives focused on in-school services. She holds a BA in languages from PUC-São Paulo, the CPE, and the CELTA. So, without further ado, I give you my dearest friend Renata Freitas. Break a leg.
Thank you so much, Adu. Hello, everybody. Hello. This is my first webinar. I'm kind of nervous, but very happy to be here with you because I'm going to talk about something that I like very much. I have decided to put together this presentation because I was taking part in a mentoring program at the institution I work, and I thought this topic was really interesting. I could use this with my students to try something different, and I decided to show some of the things that I've been trying, and that's it. I hope you like it. In the end, we have a QR code with the texts I used in my email. If feel free to write to me. Okay. Edu, I'm going to start. Okay. Now we can come back to the first flip. Right. So before starting, I'd like you to think about questions you'd like to ask. And they might be answered throughout the presentation. So I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes so that you can think about one or two questions you'd like to be answered throughout the presentation. And in the end, we are going to answer these questions. And if you cannot answer, you're going to think about possibilities for these answers, okay? So I'll give you 1 minute to think about the questions. So the questions could be regarding Bloom's taxonomy, regarding critical thinking, or anything that you might think relevant. Have you got any questions, or can you see the questions?
I'm waiting for people to answer the questions, to post the questions on YouTube, but there is a little bit of a delay usually.
All right.
So that's why.
Okay. Should I continue? Let's continue.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we can go for the next flip while people are thinking and typing the questions. So in this presentation, you're going to cover actually, before I start, this is a very superficial study on Bloom's taxonomy. I think for a deeper study, of course, you need much more time. So my intention here is just to make you curious and try to go delve into Bloom's taxonomy later on, right? So this is our objective. We are going to study a little bit who's Bloom, a brief historical perspective, the levels, why use, implications, ideas, final considerations. You're going to answer your questions and conclusions, okay? We can go for the next, you can change slide, please. So, a dear tutor of mine once told me that we need to know who we are studying. We need to put a face on the things we are studying. So this is Bloom, Benjamin Bloom. I have put together here some information about him. I'd like you to think which ones are related to him. So some of them are not. So which one would you connect with Bloom's taxonomy? Was he a teacher, a psychologist, a linguist? What do you think? I'll give you 1 minute for you to think which information is connected to him, right? You don't need to type or anything, just think a little bit. Okay? So if you thought he was a psychologist, you're right. He was a psychologist. He was not a teacher. He was not a linguist. His idea was to try to use his studies to enhance educators to have a better job in their classroom. And it was created in the 50s. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the primary objective was to apply, it wasn't to apply taxonomy into language acquisition, but to organize studies, assessment, curriculum, and methods to enhance educators' job in the classroom, right? Edu, you can change the slide. Okay, so as I said, mentioning Bloom's, as I said, um, Bloom's taxonomy came about following a series of conferences between the years of 1949 and 1953, which were designed to improve communication between educators on the design of assessment, curriculum, and instructional methods. So the idea was not to help students to learn language, but to think about the process of learning, which is his objective. Thinking about what was happening at that time, a number of approaches and methods in language teaching have been proposed. So, changes in language teaching methods throughout history have reflected recognition of changes in the kind of proficiency learners need. Okay, and as a move toward oral proficiency rather than reading comprehension. So, as a result of these studies, thinking is at the core of curiosity, self direction, critical thinking, among others, is levers of learning. So, at the point where teaching, learning, and thinking overlap, sits the concept of a classification system, which is Bloom's taxonomy. So, Bloom's taxonomy is a classification system used to define and distinguish levels of human cognition. So the levels are thinking, learning, understanding, and it maps the way you think and process information. So that's the objective. And he classified this cognition from lower levels to more complex high levels. Bloom's taxonomy also helps educators develop critical thinking and high-order thinking ability in students. The best way to enhance students' critical thinking is by challenging students to use Bloom's taxonomy verbs, and that's what you're going to do now. So I'd like you to think about what are the cognitive levels. I'm going to give you the levels. So we have create, apply, remember, analyze, evaluate, and understand. I'll give you 1 minute for you to write on the comments what is the order from the lower to the higher. Okay, I'll give you some time for that.
Hey, can you repeat the verbs again, please?
Yeah, Edu, the verbs are on top of the page. Just take off the. Have
Ah,
you?
fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah, have you? Yeah, there's a shape there.
All
Can
right.
you see the verbs?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the order from lower to higher? Okay.
Okay.
Edu, if you shade the purple one, you're going to have, what is the first one? Let's see if everybody got it right.
Should I erase like this?
Erase, yes.
Remember.
The first one, remember. The second one, understand. The third one, apply. Are we together?
Yes.
Analyze and evaluate and create. This is the renewed Bloom's taxonomy order, okay? So I'd like you to think about which verbs can I associate with the levels. So remember, what are the actions I can perform when I am working with students at this phase? Can you think about one or two verbs for each level? So remember, what comes to your mind, okay? Edu, when you, the verbs are hidden, there is a shape there,
Got it.
bottom to top. Okay, you can show the first one. Remember. So from remember, we have remember is the level where we are going to we are going to have no exercising, no lessons, because that's when we try to activate students schema. Yeah, so try to recall to recall their memory. So this is basic. Although some people criticize working with memorizing functions and structures, so every remember gives the students a base, and they feel more confident to go up to the other levels. So once you remember, we have to understand, and when you are understanding, what you have to do, you have to restate what you have remembered. You have to explain what you remember. You have to discuss, because discussing and inferring information, you're going for the next level, which is apply. So by explaining and discussing the previous information we have recalled, we are going to organize it. We are going to use the information to solve the exercise or to create a project, or to show your ideas to if you're working in a group. After that, we have to analyze. So how students can analyze what they have remembered, what they have understood, what they have applied. So now they have to analyze. So they have to contrast their information with their colleagues' information. They can classify if they are working with verbs or nouns. They can ask questions, because by ask questions we are fostering critical thinking. And after analyzing, we have to evaluate. Evaluate because we have to choose what is relevant, what can you combine with all the information we have from other peers, how can you support what you have understood and analyzed. And the last level is create. After you have gone through all these levels, not in one lesson or maybe not in one exercise, but in different phases of the lesson, we are going to choose, you're going to design, you're going to reorganize, you're going to apply, implement what we have been discussing, right? And Edu, you can change the slide.
All right.
Each level has an objective. So, Edu, you can also from top to bottom up. You can review the. Okay,
All right.
so when you are remembering, what kind of actions we expect when you are remembering. So you have to recall facts and basic concepts. So if you think about exercises for this phase, we can, for example, uh, you can ask students to recall facts from the previous lesson. You can ask them to remember what is the tense of the verb they need, or what is the concept they have applied to the lesson on the previous lesson as well. If you go for Second, understand. Understand, explain ideas and concepts. By doing that, we are constructing meaning from different types of functions. Functions students have recalled before on the previous level. An example for this activity would be, for example, illustrate the difference between one picture from another, or illustrate the difference between texts or ideas. They can also summarize a text or a lesson they have listened to, because by summarizing we are understanding. The next one, apply, when you use information in new situations. So we are implementing information. What can you do here? For example, you can solve a problem. You can pose the students a problem-solving task. You can ask them to design, to reconstruct a passage of a story they have listened to, or maybe reconstruct a text or a listening they have been exposed to on the previous lesson. Okay, so analyze. So in this phase, in this level, we are breaking materials or concept into parts. So by analyzing, we need to relate, correlate, and try to find the structure and what is the purpose, everything with a purpose. Why are we analyzing? What is the objective? And for these activities, we can ask students to explain the steps of a procedure. There are some lessons where they have to cook or they have to create something. So what are the procedures? So by understanding the procedures, by analyzing they are connecting each procedure. So the next one, evaluate. When students are evaluating, they are justifying a decision or opinion through checking information, recommendation, reports, exchanging opinions. Uh, and what can you do here? If you think about evaluating, they can think those lessons where students they have to analyze ethical or moral dilemmas, or they can interpret different cultures. They can value, or for if it's technology, they can value the innovations we are having in our time. And the last one, create. When students are creating, they are putting together elements, they are producing new and original work, reorganizing elements they have seen through the levels, and generating their own patterns. They are also planning and producing. So it doesn't matter the level, the stage from basic to advanced. Students, they are capable of going through all the stages, regardless the level, their proficiency of English, right? And if you, Edu, can you go to the next slide, please? Something interesting is the verbs, they can repeat, which is fine because it means they are connected. The students can choose something they remembered in the first level. They can choose something they're going to create on the last one. So when the verbs repeat, they have different functions, they have different complexity, right? Edu, can you change, please? So thinking about the previous, these two guys, these two gentlemen here, they are the ones responsible for the new shape, for the new format. So the original Bloom's taxonomy cognition level, the Bloom's decided to use nouns. But after some studies, these two guys here, they were Bloom's students at university. They decided to use verbs because verbs are more active. They show action just because of that. That's the explanation. That's why they changed it. And if you pay attention, the original one, the last level is evaluation, and the new one is create. Why? because according to their studies, evaluating comes before creating, as it's often a necessary part of the behavior before one creates something. So before creating something, we have to evaluate. So that's why evaluate became the penultimate stage, right? And if you think about our students, as teachers, we are always trying to find something different from students, something that can make students have a high order thinking. How can we improve their critical thinking? So I believe oftentimes, or maybe always, myself, I don't know, I'm always asking myself this question. We have to make tough decisions about how to spend our classroom time. So that's why I decided to spend my classroom time analyzing and applying these cognitive levels. To do so, we have to be aware of the level at which you are asking students to perform. So we don't have to start by uh, every time, whenever, or it doesn't matter what you want to do with our students, they have to recall that we have to use their knowledge to build from that. So we generally think basic levels maybe concentrate on the lower levels, like only remember and understand. But and we think advanced students only can use analyze onwards. But I think our mission is to try to have students had the most of it. So our mission is not just to convey information to our students, but to encourage their critical thinking. And so by having a lower level student analyze something they have been exposed to, it's a way to encourage their critical thinking, encourage reasoning skills, and that's why we need to encourage high order thinking since the beginning. So by doing that, we are enhancing critical thinking, which is the word of the moment. Yes, Edu, can you change, please? So I think we have a lot of meanings, a lot of definitions for critical thinking, and I think this one is really simple. I think it's what every teacher has to think about. So while critical thinking is a foundation rather than a brick something that you cannot change, a foundation uh, you can implement and change. How you build that foundation depends on the learning process itself. As I said before, exposing students to new thinking, promoting interactions with that thinking is a gradual release of responsibility. So when students are exposed to this cognitive thinking order, they can decide. They are. I think they are more responsible for their learning. We make them more autonomous. Edu, can you change, please? As I said before, we always teachers we are always asking ourselves. So how can I have the most of my students? So maybe asking the right questions would be a start. So not only Bloom's taxonomy is related to verbs, but also to questions teams. I believe most of us we ask a lot of questions while we are teaching, but are we asking the right questions? So if you think about sometimes we ask a lot of questions just to have them speaking, but if you ask fewer questions and questions that are related to the level that we are applying, maybe we can have a more successful dynamics. Okay, so these are some examples we can ask. So I believe we ask this question, but are we asking them in the right moment? So think about that while you're next time you prepare your lessons, right? Edu, can you change, please? So now I'm going to show you examples I have used in my lesson. So this is a young learner group. In this lesson, they were exposed to this story. They are about 8, 9 years old. So if you pay attention to the page in exercise 6, after telling the story, the teacher should work with a true or false activity. So true or false activity is level 2, comprehension, understanding. Yes. And if you want to, what can you do here? You can change the exercise. If you have time, you can uh, add an exercise. So what have I done? Do you see these two shapes,
Yeah.
bottom right?
Hmm.
Can you cover number 2 and number 4, please?
Here.
Yes, 2 and 4. So by doing that, we are changing, we are working with top down. If you are familiar with top down, bottom up, you're working with not only working with the levels of cognition, but top down approach. And by doing that, we are working with their memory. So this is much more challenging. They can do that themselves. So you can provide them a shape, they can cover the story, they have to remember, they can see number 3, they can see number 1. So by doing that, they have to remember, they have to recall exercise 2 and exercise, they have to remember what is in the what is in part 2, and in what is in part you cover 4. Yes, so only using number 3 they have to recreate the part of the story. They don't have to remember exactly. You see, remember is the first level, but in this part here we are trying to improve their understanding, right? So this is uh, just a minute. By doing this, we are applying. So we are applying their knowledge. So see, the first thing they have to do is remember, and then from remember they have to skip to application. So the exercise proposed comprehension. So we're skipping comprehension and going to application. They are going to apply what they remember to come up with the parts that we cover from the story. This is something you can do. Other thing you can do, you can ask them to react the story. They can select some characters, then they can recreate the story. By doing that, they are also applying their knowledge. Not only that, they are evaluating also which character they want to play, and they are creating their own story. They also can create their own story in the end. I think it's more playful, it's more dynamic, and we are not cutting exercise 6. What you can do, you can assign this for homework, or you can do later as a table time activity. Okay, Edu, can you go for the next one? The next one is an intermediate group. In this exercise, students were exposed to a video of this firefighter talking about his life as a firefighter and what are the lessons he has learned. So the exercise only asks the students to read the text and talk about and answer the questions. So by doing that, they are just applying what they have seen the text um, to the questions, right? But if you can, if you think a little bit, I thought about using the level analyze. Why? Because what is the idea? I'd like you to. They have to differentiate from reading the text. I'd like them to differentiate what is fact and opinion, because the firefighter is talking about his life as a firefighter, describing his job. So instead of answering the questions, students can create two columns, fact and opinion from the text. It's a little bit more advanced, and I think they're going to use much more of what they have watched in the video and read in the text. Edu, can you change, please?
Sure. There you go.
Yeah, this is a teenager group. From this exercise, this is one of my favorites because we have a text which is really interesting. It's rich. There are a lot of vocabulary. They work with present, past simple, and after reading, they were supposed a text to read the text and answer the questions. This is kind of boring for students. I think it's necessary, but it's boring. What can you do? What I thought. I always assign the questions for homework, or if you have time, you can answer later. So my idea is here, after reading answering the questions would be the analysis phase. So my idea here is to ask students to select uh, part of the story they think it's the funniest, the saddest, the happiest, and the most unbelievable. And it's this criteria suits really well this story. So I think it's fun. They can do this together. You can assign, you can work on stations in the classroom. Each corner can be one category, like the one part is the funniest, the other the saddest. The students, they can write the answers on their answers on a post-it, stand up, uh, glue the post on the wall, and after that they can walk around and read each other's answers. I think this is much more engaging. They are using their critical thinking to analyze what they need to 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 meet the category, and after that, they can answer the questions without resorting to the text again. I think this is really interesting. Edu, we can change. So this is an advanced group. In this, I'm sorry, I don't have the text for you here, but it's a text about Greece. And this is a very interesting topic, but again, they have to read the text and answer some questions. So what I thought was, instead of answering the questions, we can go from you can use the evaluate level. You can ask them to, by the title of the story, create the story. So the father of history. We have worked previously to that. We have worked with some warm up and some exercise to activate their previous knowledge. So we can ask them to create a story before reading the text. By doing that, they can even use their mobiles to research a little bit, and then create their stories, and after that they can read the text. And I think we are going to foster curiosity because they want to check if their text is similar to the text they are going to read on the book. So again, they are using their critical thinking to go beyond the exercising that is asking. And after reading the text, they can answer the questions, maybe easily, because they have had a lot of time to think about the topic. Okay. Edu, can you change, please? Okay. So there are a thousand things we can do with Bloom's taxonomy in our lessons. You can use There are some people studying Bloom's taxonomy and technology. So this is a new trend. Yeah, so we are trying to connect something that is traditional with something that is more modern. So this is just an extra for you to see, for you to go deeper later. How can you use the verbs to create exercises and connect them with technology in your lessons? Okay, if you try to use some of this is something I'm trying to implement this semester. This is my next step, to use technology and Bloom's taxonomy together. If you do that, please send me an email and tell me how does it work. Edu, can you change, please? Here is just a list of the various verbs you can use. There are thousands of verbs you can use. It's interesting because you can prepare our lessons, including these verbs, preparing students to also start using these verbs, avoid repetition, bring a sense of curiosity to class, organization as well. Okay, I'm not going to go over these verbs now. This is just for you to take a look of uh, the the amount of verbs you can use in each level. Edu, can you uh, Can you change, please?
Mhm.
So this is it. I believe using Bloom's taxonomy is the best way for us to enhance critical thinking in the lesson in our lessons. It's a way. It's it's the best way you can use. Um, just a minute, guys. Um, using Bloom's taxonomy, I believe encourage critical thinking, reasoning skills. We encourage our students to have uh, different ways. Not only we encourage our students not only to memorize, to rely on their memory, but also to step up and evaluate and analyze the information they have, the information that could be essential for them. Go through the lesson or maybe at home studying. So just to finish, Bloom's taxonomy can be a powerful tool to transform teaching and learning. It focuses attention on the cognitive events in the mind. It also emphasizes thinking rather than memorizing. So, memorizing is important, but you have to go beyond that. Okay? Edu, can you change? So, coming back to the questions you have asked before the beginning of the presentation, do we have questions, Edu?
Here, Juliana Vernaga asked if we could apply Bloom's taxonomy theory with lower levels.
Yes, as I mentioned before, it doesn't matter the level. I think the lower the level, the necessity to apply Bloom's taxonomy to start working with critical thinking since the lower level. So for lower levels, you have to rely on the memory level, the and by doing that maybe understand we have to go little by little. So something for lower levels, you can, for example, if you're listening, they have to, for example, understand if the person is sad or happy, if it's positive or negative. This is something we do, but sometimes we forget this detail and go straight to the post, the pre exercise or the post. So for lower levels, you can work with these emotions: happy, sad. You can work with who said the sentence, the woman, the man, or Mary or John. I think you can work with these exercises. Do you have any other questions,
Yeah,
Edu?
Silvania Capua, she asked if you teach university students.
Yes, in my institution we have students that are attending university, but it doesn't matter they are advanced levels or advanced or lower level students.
Mhm. I think what she meant if
Mm.
what she meant was like if you are a teacher at a graduation course, so it's just
No,
regular lesson.
no, I'm not, Silvana. I'm not teaching graduation students. Not now. Maybe in the future.
Yeah. So I think all of this that you mentioned, I mean, it is the first time I watched this talk, and my head just blows up with ideas on things I could change.
There
And
is all there is we rely on the material very much. So I think nowadays we have to think about critical thinking, redesigning tasks. We have to own it. I think with when you are thinking about changing an exercise to cater for our students, they notice that and they see you are thinking about them and creating something new, something more engaging. I believe if you could have time to go over the text I selected in the end, you can see how fun it is to prepare a lesson, and it doesn't take a long time. You don't need material; you just have to adapt, and that's the beauty of teaching,
I think it
having
just
tools
changes
to change.
perspective right here.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Edu, can you change
We
the
have
flip?
one more question
Ah,
here.
more question.
Diana
Okay.
Santos asked if can she asked the following question: Can Bloom's taxonomy help learners develop metacognition?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Can
What?
Bloom's taxonomy help learners develop metacognition, like thinking about their way of thinking?
Well, I believe so. If you think about, if, for example, if you come back to the levels, if you think about the first level, memory, they are thinking about what they remember. They are trying to select what they need to use. So I do believe when you work with critical thinking, you are thinking about how can you apply what you have to a new perspective.
I think it is
Is
like a
it?
domino effect, right here.
Yes.
It is. It is. It is not. I think it is not the final product.
No.
It's develop their metacognition, but I think it is a side effect that comes with critical thinking, perhaps.
Yeah, because they have to apply what they have learned. So
Mhm.
when you are applying, you are thinking about your own learning.
Okay.
That's a given.
All right. All right. So can I change to the next slide?
Yes, please. And guys, thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with me. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you can use some of the things you have seen here. There are some material for you. There is even an interesting video from Seinfeld. Showing somebody compiled different moments regarding the levels of Bloom taxonomy. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, send me an email. I'll be more than glad to to share my experiences and read yours, and I'm here for you guys. Anything, just send me an email. Thank you so much, and thank you, Edu. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Let me just turn on the cameras here. Thank you for for devoting your time to us.
Thank
I'm
you.
very
It was a pleasure.
that Brout will definitely benefit a lot from your talk.
Thank you.
And I get people here saying thank you for your insights. People that saying that we'll contact you for
Please do.
to expand on
Guys,
the matter.
this is just a curiosity. Okay, I'm still discovering. I'm still studying. I'm applying. This is every time I prepare a lesson and change something using Bloom's taxonomy, it's fail, it's success, it's flop, it's marvelous. So I'm just a curious person trying to have better lessons.
And I think that if if only we had more teachers as curious as you are, right?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Education would be in a very different path as we are today. But here we are, curious teachers fighting for a better education. So
Yes, for sure.
thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much, Edu.
I hope you're less anxious now.
I am relieved.
Good. So thank you all guys for watching the webinar today. We have a raffle in 15 minutes on Instagram. Winner Idiomas offered two tests. They are raffling two tests, one FCE and one module for the TKT. So if you haven't signed up for this raffle, go to bit.ly slash Braut S010. So bit.ly uh, slash Braut S, which stands for sorteio, S010. So make sure you fill in the form and participate in this raffle today. All right. Hey, thank you very much. Have a
Thank you.
very
Thank
nice
you.
Friday night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all for staying with us for this 45 minutes, and I'll see you around.
See
Bye.
you guys. Thank you. Bye bye.